What is going on, everybody? It's another episode of Denmark and Marsh on a hurricane. I say Helen with an E. Is it Helene? I've only heard it like 800 times. I don't even know the name of the damn hurricane.
I have no idea.
All right, that's cool. We got a hurricane. I've done all my storm prep. I made sure I cut the grass yesterday. I edged the grass. All the trash cans I just left out there because the raccoons are going to go through it anyway. So,
did you get gas?
I did get gas because I was less than 50 miles till empty. So I was kind of forced to. Yeah. I mean, dude, I don't want to talk about this, but the fact that they decided to close schools on Tuesday, I know it's shelters and this, I don't get it. I don't get how we've taken so much precaution for everything for a hurricane that's just going to brush us. But we have to do it because that little slither of a percent, if it ever comes here, you gotta have your ducks in a row.
Yeah, so I have a take on this. Okay. It encompasses the hurricane, it encompasses Florida State losing, it encompasses the Gators losing, it encompasses the Jaguars losing. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Not exactly.
The Florida State fan that said he would eat the dog poop.
So
he needs to eat the dog poop. We need to bring this man to justice because this is extending beyond just Florida State football now. Okay, this is affecting the Jaguars. This is affecting the Gators. What's happening right now is God is holding North Florida accountable for this man's actions because we have not brought him to justice. And the circumference of punishment is only going to increase until we make him eat the dog poop.
Okay.
That's what's going to happen.
I never thought about it like that.
That's what's going to happen.
By the way, are you okay, man? I mean, you went to the Florida-Miami game and got our ass whooped, and then you've been in the first 3 Jags games, and they haven't been well.
No, I'm not okay. No, I'm not.
Mean, and this also, too, this isn't like you're going as a member of the media. You know, it's not like you're, it's not like you're, having your expenses paid for. Like, you're going on your own dime with a friend or somebody, and I just want to make sure you're okay.
I'm going for the love of the game because I'm sick in the head.
So you're not going to Houston, right?
No, thank God I'm not going to Houston.
And the Gators don't have a game Saturday, so that's
no, they can't hurt me.
Positive.
There's
a lot of good games on set for Saturday.
It's going to be it's a great day of college football.
UCF, Colorado, Georgia, Bama is going to be obviously the main one.
You want me to really like stick my neck out there and give you a really, really bold prediction about this weekend of college football?
Wait a second. All right, go ahead.
The Florida Gators will not lose.
That's correct.
If the Florida Gators lose this weekend, I will eat the dog poop for the Florida State fan.
So the Florida Gators, I saw it's already came out. They're already a 2-point favorite. I think UCF's going to roll Colorado this week. Colorado just doesn't. Mm-hmm. Ever since that first month with Dion, they don't put together back-to-back games. Like they should have lost to Baylor, which a lot of people are forgetting. If anybody stayed up for that, I did. They get the Hail Mary and then they score first in overtime, and then Baylor fumbles at the 1 and goes out of the end zone. Colorado wins. I think UCF's going to roll them. I think UCF's favored by 14 in that game. And then UCF will run to Florida, and I think it'll be an even game next week. Just looking at it from an early bird's eye view.
Not stopping the run is going to be a big problem.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I mean, every game from here on out is going to be 48-45.
How often do we talk about the trenches, bro? All the time.
Well, yeah, they're terrible.
I mean, and look, like, this is true at every level of football, and we've talked about it time and time again on this podcast, man. Like, I think we said this on Monday, on our Monday show, reacting to the Mississippi State game. Like, I think it's honestly, like, kind of a miracle how good Mertz and Lagway both are, how effective they both are, considering everything else around this program right now. You clearly have a nice bright spot up and coming in Aiden Mizell. Hopefully you get Eugene Wilson back at some point. I still don't really think we kind of have a concrete answer on what's going on there with the surgery and all that. The backs, I'm really encouraged by the young backs. We talked about this on Monday a little bit. Like, I'd like to see them get more carries, and maybe that means cutting back a little bit on Montrell's carries. There's all these different things, right? But if they don't figure out the trenches, none of this matters.
The only thing I have a question about going into next week is Eugene Wilson going to play?
Dude, I know. I'm not sure. Like, all we really know is that he had surgery, but that can mean so many different things. Like, we don't really know how invasive that is.
Major surgery, minor surgery.
If it was more invasive and it was like a season-ending type of thing, we'd have been told that. So, dude, I don't know. What I will say, you know, look, take all this with a grain of salt, man. I still believe that they're going to have to play some good teams, and they're going to have to lose. They're going to lose those games by a lot of points, and eventually Billy Napier is going to be shown the door sometime this season. So I don't know that this changes things overall, but just for the here and now, if we want to be a little bit positive about things, I see the vision that Napier has had in stacking talent. The portal has made it tough for him to stack it as much as he would like. You know, because you'll have a guy like Trevor Etienne, a guy like Prince Umanmielen transfer out of the program, and then it makes it hard to keep to stack it and really get a loaded roster, right? Because it almost seems like every time you infiltrate new freshman talent, you lose some of the experienced guys that have played well for you. All that said, if they do get Wilson back, and you have this emergence of Aiden Mizell, and it seems like Mertz is playing pretty well. When Lagway comes in, he looks decent. The young backs are playing pretty. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I can see a world where this offense puts a couple of drives together throughout a game, stays on the field for a while, scores a couple points. Doesn't mean they're going to go up to Knoxville and win. Doesn't mean they're going to beat Georgia. Doesn't mean I'm not saying any of that. Maybe it can mean that they can look like they belong on the same field a little bit more than we all originally thought they would, like when they played A&M and Miami, when they just got the doors beat off of them. Maybe there's a world where there's just a little bit of improvement enough, at least on that side of the ball, to have it be midway through the third quarter and we
still have a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
I can see what you're saying, but that's all just from the backfield. I mean, that's
it is 100%. 100%. The trenches are still a concern, and we said this on Monday. Dude, I don't know what the defense does Monday through Friday. I have no idea. I'm out of answers. I don't know. I got no idea. I don't know what they do. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable how bad they are. Do you have any answers?
No.
You're a coach, so you might know more X's and O's wise what's going on, but this is insane.
I mean, what was it? Napier said he had a presser yesterday, the day before yesterday, that they're not aligning up right. I mean, I don't know how you can play Division I college football and you're still having the same issues you did from when you were a coach in year 1 and you're in year 3. Now, I mean, obviously there's some times where the players don't know what they're doing, but when it comes, you know, there's micro and there's macro. There's times where little things happen and it's like, okay, that can be the player. But when you see it over and over and over and over and over and over again, and you're 30 games into your tenure, that's a coaching thing. So sometimes the players are not smart, so then you have to simplify things as a coach. Well, I don't. Like it's just it's everything. It's like, you know, you watch this team and it's like there's not one thing you can look at on the defense and go, okay, we just fix this one little thing.
Yeah.
Florida can contend and hopefully give up 35 to Tennessee or you know, be in a game with Kentucky. It's everything.
It's the micro versus macro thing you were just talking about. What does that really mean, right? Like micro, like you said, is an isolated thing that probably has to do with one specific player that's just not getting whatever principle or concept or just making the plays when they're there for whatever reason. They're not good enough. They don't get it. Who knows? The macro thing is what you're talking about. The macro thing is when you have 10 micro things going on all at the same time, right? And why does that keep happening? How come, Dylan, answer this for me. How come with a program that has had 3 different defensive coordinators across all 3 years has the same exact problems? Why is that?
It starts up top.
You're correct. There's one common denominator. His name is Billy Napier, right? And I know he doesn't coach the defense. I get it. But he hires a defensive coordinator. He's in practice with him all training camp all week. And this is why our good friend Shane Matthews, who we had on the show before the Miami game, I trust his opinion on a lot of things. One thing where I think Shane is kind of isolated on, he's kind of on an island, and I don't agree with him. You probably don't agree with him. I think most people don't agree with Shane on this, is the whole Billy needs an offensive coordinator thing. Shane is like steadfast that Billy doesn't need an OC. Like steadfast about it. And his reasoning is always that the offense has been better than people give it credit for and all this. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. But that's not why he needs an OC. Billy needs an OC because last year they couldn't put 11 guys on special teams. Billy needs an OC because every single game, seemingly his entire tenure, the defense just makes boneheaded play after boneheaded play after boneheaded play. Okay, take like an Urban Meyer-led Florida Gator team. If that's happening, you think Urban's not going to have some kind of hand in that and say, we're figuring this out, come hell or high water?
Yeah, one would think.
Of course he is. That's the problem. Billy, because he is calling the plays, because he is concerned with play design and offensively and what we're going to do that week against this opponent and how we're going to utilize Mertz and Lagway and all this, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the best coach in the history of college football. You simply can't do all of that at one time during the course of one game. When DJ Douglas is blowing coverage and not wanting to hit somebody when he comes up, Billy's got to worry about Mertz and Lagway and their rotation and everything. How is he supposed to go then talk to Ron Roberts, be like, hey, what's going on with 12? We got to fix this. If he can't figure this out, take him out. Like, he's not able to do those things and macro-manage because he's got to micromanage the offense. That's why he needs an OC.
Yeah, I mostly agree with you there.
I mean, it's a moot point anyways. He ain't going to do it.
No, it's not. I mean,
but that just, I think that's one of the small problems that he's doing that's causing other people to have problems that he can't fix.
The thing is, and I don't really know what he was really doing at Louisiana, but there needs to be like a study. Like some journalist needs to have some kind of study where you look at a group of 5 coaches that are at a group of 5 school and they get a Power 5 job. Like Billy Napier, you could go to Neil Brown and look at, okay, what worked for them. And I mean, look at it from top to bottom, from recruiting to coaching to, and then look at what they did in the Power 5 and what changed. Like what did they keep the same philosophy from when they were at the Group 5 to the Power 5? Did they say, okay, I'm an offensive guy, I lean more on the offense, I'm going to leave the defensive guy? I want to know that kind of study because I want to know what Billy Napier has done different from when he was at Louisiana to Florida. Is it exactly the same? The recruiting's still, decent. He recruited at Louisiana pretty good. The offense was good. I really don't even know what the defense was at Louisiana when he was there.
Can I tell you my theory on this?
Yeah.
Why, like with Billy specifically, not because I think every coach, especially when they make that G5 to Power 5 leap, every coach is going to have their different things that do or don't work and reasons why they do or don't fail. With Billy, in my opinion, from a macro perspective, what has gone on in his program and why what he's tried to do, what he succeeded at Louisiana is not succeeding in Florida. I believe that Billy is a very good recruiter. I believe that pretty strong. High school recruiter. I believe that very strongly. To have the type of seasons that they have had the last 2 years and still land DJ Lagway is incredible. That's really impressive to do. And land LJ McCray and land Mizell and to land some of the guys they've landed is objectively impressive. So that makes me in my heart of hearts believe that he is a good recruiter at every level. The difference is, at Louisiana, there's a world where if you're a really good recruiter, you will be able to simply out-recruit every single person you play, and you will simply be able to just beat everybody you play because you're just better than them talent-wise. And for Billy, we know this, we've talked about this, for better or worse, he runs a very simple offense. A lot of the plays are pretty predictable. He doesn't make his offense, he doesn't make his quarterback and everybody involved in the offense think too much, which can be a positive thing, especially at a place like Louisiana. When your quarterback is better than the defense he's playing against, he's got receivers that are better, and then their line's blocking up better, then you don't need a complex offense. You can keep things pretty simple, right? But then when you get to the Power 4 level here, especially in the SEC, even if you are recruiting well, you ain't going to just show up and just have better players than Georgia or better players than...
You could say about half the SEC.
Right. But anybody you play, you're going to have a really strong, sound game plan that attacks something that you saw on film if you expect to win ball games. That he doesn't have. So I think slowly but surely, as the new car smell of him being this new coach corroded away, And the success on the field still never came because he never got to that talent gap he had at Louisiana. Well, then the recruiting momentum in general just started to slow down because he ain't winning football games. That's the macro perspective of what I think is going on with Billy.
I could agree with most of that. Next 3 games, what do they do?
Next 3 games: UCF, Kentucky, Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee, then Kentucky.
Tennessee, okay,
and then your bye week before you hit Georgia.
Mm-hmm. They go 1-2. They beat UCF or Kentucky. I don't know who yet, but they beat one of those teams, and then they get the doors beat off of them in Knoxville. They're going to lose that game in Knoxville by 40, 50 points. I really believe that.
Tennessee, you have the top-tier teams of Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and then Tennessee's right behind them.
Yeah. Tennessee could beat them on any given day.
Yes. They could play 10 times, but Tennessee's beating them all 10 times.
Well, for Florida, yeah, I'm saying if Tennessee plays, they're going to play them this year anyway, so we're going to see it. But if Tennessee plays Georgia, I think probably, 2 or 3 of those times Tennessee gets them? Like neutral site,
yeah,
you would say. So, those top-tier teams you said, would most likely beat Tennessee, and they'd be favored to beat them, but it wouldn't be, insane.
It'd be a touchdown game.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be, shock the world if they beat them. It'd be like, okay, huge win for Tennessee. Here's the biggest issue. Maybe Cam Ward, who knows, Cam Ward might be holding the Heisman at the end of the year. I don't know. They don't really play a lot of people, so it's kind of hard to tell how good Cam Ward really is, to be honest with you. They still haven't played anybody good, and they're not going to play many.
Florida's the best team they've played.
I know. Which is crazy to say.
And they play tomorrow night, Friday night.
So I just don't know. But in a similar way, Nico is going to make them pay when they're...
We thought this defense was bad, and them not being lined up and the safeties coming down and being out of a play. Oh, my gosh.
First of all, Tennessee, make no mistake, people make this mistake every year with Tennessee, with the Josh Heupel offense. They want up-tempo. They want deep shots. Of course they do. But that team runs the football. That team will pound it down your throat.
And they have an excellent D-line.
They got maybe the best D-line in the SEC, besides probably Georgia. They got a ridiculous... James Pierce is a top 10 draft pick.
That number 21?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, think about that guy going up against these tackles, bro.
I don't want to think about it.
Think about if they slip him inside and get him against Damian George one-on-one.
Remember before the season started...
There's going to be another concussion, I'll tell you that much.
We all said, or you and I said, that Miami is the biggest game of the year. You have to win. And the second game is UCF. You still kind of feel that way?
Yeah, I do.
You can't...
I think. Look, because they beat Mississippi State and because they got a bye this week, the Fire Billy discourse is just going to be in quicksand for the next 10 days before they play again.
Yeah, it's just monotone
It's just sort of on a hiatus. It will come back. Do not worry.
We were worried.
right.
We were worried. But
Right.
Not anymore.
It will come back 100%. If they if they lose to UCF, particularly if they get killed again, I really don't know that he survives until that Monday. Do you?
After the UCF game?
Close game. I don't know.
I think he makes this 3-game stretch, and then if this 3-game stretch is bad, you lose to UCF, and if you go 0-3, I think he's let go before the Georgia game.
The Georgia game, yeah, but I'm saying if the UCF game looks like the A&M game did, or looks like the Miami game, that game will be played on Saturday. I don't think he'll be the coach the following Monday.
No, it goes back to the point that I said after they played A&M. Everybody was chanting "Fire Billy Napier" at the end of the half, and when you put out a performance like that at home in a game where you're supposed to compete and you don't look like you belong in the same field, those fans are not going to go to your next home game.
Correct.
So you've patched up a little bit to where it feels like a big game, and I don't know how many UCF fans are going to be at the game. I mean, ticket prices are kind of about $100 somewhere, for a decent ticket. If you look poor against UCF and then you get clobbered against Tennessee, I don't know how Billy Napier walks out of the tunnel against Kentucky.
I don't either. And kind of back to that crowd point really quick, I'd like to make a point. I am glad that it's kind of picking up steam of debunking the whole BS narrative that Florida has this crazy toxic fan base. I'm glad that we're pushing back on this a little bit.
Do you really care about that?
Yes.
And I really don't.
I do care, and let me explain why. I care because all I ever hear when Florida hires a new coach, and I hear about how they hire and fire coaches too quickly and yada, 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 all I ever hear is media people making it the fans' fault.
Yeah, well, the fans are the reason why Dan Mullen got let go, because he had one bad year and then he left.
Right.
According to the national media.
Which is insane.
Which every Gator fan knows that's not why he got let go.
Correct. Correct. And Dylan, that's why I care. I care because of the narrative that it's mostly national guys. Local guys don't really do this as some do. I'm not excusing everyone, but I think it's more so like bigger national names covering college football. There's this narrative that, if you don't if you don't go undefeated your first season at Florida, that the entire fan base has pitchforks and torches outside your house. That's not true. That's BS. And it mostly comes from, I've had this conversation with you before. I don't know if it was online or offline. This BS narrative comes from former coaches that are on TV now or on radio or on some type of media platform that are bitter about when they got let go from whatever their previous job was because they didn't produce, and now they want to say that ADs and fans and everybody just has this way too short leash and they just fire coaches too quickly, and it's a damn shame that we don't give coaches any time anymore. No, that's BS. That's not true. Look, we all know why Dan Mullen got fired. Okay, that recruiting class was pitiful. He may as well have had Dylan and me as part of the class. Okay, before Jim McElwain, we know why he got fired. That program was getting nothing but worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And he was lying about the fan base. So they got death threats and couldn't provide them. Will Muschamp lost to Georgia Southern. These coaches were justified in being fired. And the whole reason I'm bringing this up, to bring this full circle right now, are there toxic fans like on Twitter? They're going to call for someone's head after 2 games? Yes, of course. But people want to take those isolated people that just have a Twitter account and make that seem like that's the whole fan base. Billy Napier has done nothing but lose and underperform his entire time at Florida. That UCF game is sold out.
Okay, but here's sold out. Every home game has been sold out.
Sold out, man. Sold out. That matters. That matters because I don't want to hear again how Florida has this toxic fan base. No, Florida has a supportive fan base come hell or high water.
Listen to this. I wanted to mention something else, but since you just brought that up.
I'm sorry. This gets me worked up.
You're good. Yeah, I just don't care. Like, if it takes one coach to change the narrative of a lot of things.
100%.
And in national media, they don't. They look at the outside. They look at it from a bird's eye view, and then they go, "Oh yeah, they done this with that coach, this with that coach." I just don't care. I think people that know that are getting interviewed for the job in a couple of weeks or the next couple months, they know what they're getting into. Talking about the fan base and it being sold out. Did you see? So last week was a great week for college football. You had USC, Michigan, drew 6.5 million people, which is an insane number for a 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. Do you know where Florida, Mississippi State ranked?
Yeah, were they like 7th or something?
They were 7th and drew over 2.5 million people. That TV number drew more than Utah, Oklahoma State. That was a top 15 game in America.
And
Think about that.
I got news for you. It wasn't, no disrespect, but it wasn't Mississippi State fans driving that number.
No!
It was Gator fans.
And I mean, think about it. I think Florida's been in the top 10 when they played Miami for the TV, when they played A&M for TV, and that crapshoot.
I know.
Just think about that.
Dude, think about, like, on a much smaller level, think about this podcast. They've been awful all year, and we've had nothing but phenomenal engagement all season with Gator fans. Watching the show, consuming it. They want to get stuff off their chest just like we do. They're frustrated about X, Y, and Z. The next game, guess what they're watching? Every single play of. They're watching this football team. And most fans are done with Billy Napier, don't like him, whatever. But we all know what you guys are doing and what we're doing, and it's great. Come Saturday when that game kicks off, you're cheering for that team that wears orange and blue. So you care less about it, which is probably a healthier way to digest this because you understand that, look, once they get a coach in here that...
Yeah, I mean, like, Lane Kiffin's not... If he gets an interview, he's not saying, well, I don't want that Florida fan base because, they're toxic.
Thank you.
Eli Drinkwitz is not going to not take an interview because, this Florida fan base is toxic, and Tim Brando said something before the season.
Thank you.
It has nothing to do with any of that.
Dylan, that's why I care about it. And because you're correct.
You care about what, though?
I care about people acting like that's a thing.
So you care about what other people's opinion are that aren't Gator fans, and they look down because they think Florida doesn't give coaches enough time.
Yes, because I think you have one of the most supportive, there for you, will spend the money, go to the games, will cheer you on no matter what types of fan bases, and they just get dumped on time and time again by national media because the athletic director doesn't know how to hire a coach. That's not the fans' fault. It's not. But for some reason, all these people want to sit up there on TV shows and podcasts and radio shows and Tim Brandos of the world and those types of people. They want to act like, what? It's the fans' fault that Dan Mullen doesn't like to recruit? It's the fans' fault that Dan Mullen wants to wake surf on his boat instead of call up recruits? While Kirby Smart is somewhere in a dark alley sucking down black coffee, calling recruit after recruit after recruit to come to Georgia? That's not the fans' fault. It's not.
Well, Dan Mullen didn't want to recruit during the season.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't want to talk about recruiting during the season.
Look, it matters to me because I'm sick of coaches not wanting to hold coaches accountable. When Billy gets fired this year, because he will, we all know that, is it the fan base's fault that DJ Douglas can't line up and be in position? Is it the fan base's fault that he had a top 5 NFL draft pick 2 years ago at quarterback and couldn't hit the broadside of the barn when he played for Billy Napier? Went to Vanderbilt and lost the game? Is that the fan base's fault?
Bad.
Is it the fan base's fault that Kentucky, a school that Florida beat a bajillion years in a row since Ronald Reagan was in office?
They haven't beaten Kentucky since 2020.
Yeah, but it's the fan base's fault. I mean, come on. Give me a break. That's why it bothers me more just because it makes me mad. It doesn't bother me because I think it really has an effect on anything.
Right.
It's more just the narrative, and I want to fight back against that. And it goes back to something you just said, and I wholeheartedly agree. And this gets back to, okay, it really doesn't matter that much in the end when it's all said and done. Hacker came in here, and we had Gator Bites last week, and we kind of had this similar debate.
I'm Hacker.
And Hacker had the take that is not an uncommon take to have. A lot of people say stuff like this when a coaching search happens. He said, why would Lane Kiffin come here? He walks on water at Ole Miss. Eli Drinkowitz.
I had that conversation with him already.
Eli Drinkowitz walks on water at Missouri. These coaches, okay. Billy Napier walked on water at Louisiana, did he not? Dan Mullen walked on water at Mississippi State, did he not?
Man. Dude, Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma and Brian Kelly left Notre Dame because they knew that they got the most talent out of that program.
Yes.
And they know that they could get to a higher level if they go into a different program.
There's
Ole Miss will never win a national title. They never won a national title from when the SEC went to 12 teams in 1992 until present day. And now you think that Oklahoma and Texas are in the conference and they get rid of divisions and it's way harder now. And now you think they're going to?
Yeah.
Ole Miss is running back. I was watching the Ohio State game. Judkins, the running back.
Quinshon Judkins,
Ole Miss. Yeah. He said, do you know why he said he went to Ohio State?
I vaguely saw some of this, but say it.
He said he went to Ohio State because he wanted to win a national title. He was at Ole Miss the last 2 years. Okay? He was at Ole Miss the last 2 years. He wanted to win a national title. That's why he went to Ohio State.
Yeah.
I don't know what more proof you need.
Yeah. And there's one guy, unless I might be missing a couple coaches here and there across the country, but there's one guy I can think of that fits that description of like, why would he leave? He's got it made here. He can win 8, 9, 10 games a year and everybody's going to be happy. And it's Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. He's the one guy that I think has been a hot name in a lot of coaching searches in the past, has never pulled the trigger to go somewhere. He's been there for forever now. I guess probably Kyle Whittingham at Utah.
Iowa,
as well.
Ferentz.
So there's
probably in the years past.
So there's a couple throughout the country.
The thing with that though is like that whole opinion, like dude, and I know you work in sales, I'm gonna say this. Like, it's not like a sales job where you come to work and it's like, okay, I'll get my sales and I go home.
Yeah.
Like, that's not one of those jobs. There's always a improvement to coaching. You start as a GA, then you go to coordinator, and then you constantly move your way up. And then after a couple of years, you kind of get stale. Okay, I want a new challenge.
Yeah.
That's how coaching, that's the DNA of coaching. And when you get stale, you want to move on to a new challenge.
Great coaches don't sit back and think, I got it made here.
Like Ole Miss, I think, some stat. I think Ole Miss is one. If they win 10 games this year, it'll be like a third consecutive year where they've won 10 games in a season that hasn't been done forever or maybe never been done.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably not going to continue to happen. Like, you're not going to – yes, you might still have, good quarterbacks, but this is probably the most talented team he's going to have at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And it still might be good, but you're not going to be able to run with the Alabamas and Georgias and Texas in all of those teams. It's just how it is.
Yeah. So that's the final kind of pin in this to put a bow on this conversation is like, again, other than the few coaches that are exceptions to this rule, probably I wouldn't even say Ferentz, because having literally zero offense of function whatsoever, ever, any year, wouldn't cut it in other places in a bigger time program than Iowa. And I don't even think – I think any big-time program in need of a coach wouldn't want to touch him because of that. But I would say probably Whittingham and Gundy are the two guys that I think have truthfully just said, I got it made here. I got a great job. I've got my football program up and running. We win 10, 11 games a year, and everybody loves that, and everybody's happy with that. Outside of that, and again, maybe a couple guys I might be missing, when people say that, every time people say that, that coach ends up leaving. They always do.
Not, yeah.
They always do. Look, I got news for you. I don't know if they're going to keep winning the way they do, because I think the way that the state of Missouri has legislated NIL and stuff has given them a giant leg up, and that's a big reason they're winning like they are. But if Eli Drinkowitz keeps winning like he is and they stay this relevant and this good and this competitive, he won't be Missouri's coach in, 3 years?
No.
3 years probably?
No, I'd say 2.
I don't even think, take Florida out of the equation. I don't think Lane will be Ole Miss's coach in 4 years.
No, there's no shot.
There's no shot, right?
There's no shot.
So that's the point. Everyone likes to pretend like these coaches, because they walk on water at this place and everyone loves them and yada yada. Everyone wants to pretend that that's enough, and that people are saying that as if there's all these coaches all over the country that have been at one place for 25 years. That ain't the case. That ain't the case. You're hired to be fired, or you're hired to be promoted elsewhere.
This is true.
I mean, it's that simple. You the first person you said, Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma. He left Oklahoma. He had 2 Heismans. Two Heisman trophies there.
Brian Kelly was a game away from a national title and played a national title and said, I can't win a national title here. That's
Notre Dame.
That's how it is, man.
That's Notre Dame and Oklahoma. Much less Oklahoma State, like Gundy's at, or some of these other places. I mean, come on.
Can we get into a couple hot button topics that happened in college football before we roll out of here?
Yeah, because I've been real unanimated this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm talking like the waves on the Adobe are here and Graham's through the screen. The UNLV quarterback controversy. All right, I'm not saying this is as big of a deal as everybody else. Yes, I know they're 3-0 and they beat Houston and Kansas, which has been, pretty incredible for, for UNLV that has a shot to make the playoff. Okay, if they wanted to find a couple $100,000 in Las Vegas, I think they'd find it. Number one, I'm saying that jokingly. The coach's jobs are at line, and they know if they make the playoff, they're getting promoted to go somewhere else. If you look at that quarterback stats the first 3 weeks, like I saw Bud Elliott say this on his Cover 3 podcast. The dude has been good. He hasn't been out of this world good. And if they really, really wanted to keep him, they would have done it. And if you haven't seen the story, he was promised $100,000, and he got that $100,000. Well, he's played good his first 3 games, and now he's played well. He's saying, well, my
market's gone up.
Yes. And he wants $300,000, and UNLV's like, no, we ain't doing that. So he's saying, I'm leaving because my NL needs weren't met, which they were. And I've seen JB, Last Chance U, on his podcast, he had somebody text him saying, what I'm saying is true, that he wanted $300,000 and he got his needs met, and somebody else tweeted out that his needs were met. I don't think that's big. This is as big a deal as some people are making it out to be. Because if he wanted to, if the coaches really wanted him there at that school, he'd still be there. He'd still be there playing. So
you don't believe this is going to be a chain reaction and becomes a big epidemic
it
across
probably will, but
the sport?
I heard Jason Brown say this, Last Chance U coach, and I could see this happening. There's going to be players that are going to do this when it gets to the playoff. And you probably have some players that are going to sit out in the playoffs. So remember what happened in the bowl games with Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey. They're like, it's not worth it. We all lost our mind, and then it became the norm. I don't know if it'll ever become the norm, but you're going to have college football players that make the playoff solely because of a quarterback or a running back or a receiver or whomever, and they're not going to play in a playoff, and we're going to lose our mind. I think that's just how college football is now, because there's no contracts, there's no overseers, there's no commissioners.
Yeah, and because of that, there's no guardrails to protect against stuff like this.
Which, by the way, I'm glad you brought that up. The SEC and the Big Ten, I think, commissioner are meeting in Nashville for, I would assume, some important college football things in the future that regard.
I wonder what that
this.
I wonder what that could be about.
They could, pull apart from the NCAA and have a commissioner, and then you could get into really. But I think that's what's going to happen.
The biggest issue, Dylan, in my opinion, and the biggest, actually two. I got two of them. One in regards to the portal, one in regards to NIL. With the portal, I think there's one really, it doesn't fix all the problems, but there's one really easy black and white fix that I think cuts back on a lot of the issues they're having right now. Again, it's not going to fix everything, but it's going to help a lot. When the NCAA implemented everybody getting the one-time free transfer, for the most part, I think most people were cool with that. I think most people did not have an issue with that.
Yes.
They said, look, a lot of times coaches up and leave these programs in the middle of the night.
It wasn't the portal. The portal was created, not to cut you off, because if you wanted to leave a program, it was you couldn't transfer in conference, and a coach had a list of, okay, well, if Florida plays Miami next year, you can't transfer to Miami because you'll have our stuff. And the portal was created for that, and also, if you were a player you wanted to leave, you couldn't tell everybody. Now you could see that. Yeah. And then there was guardrails up against it. Well, and that's what they were promised. Well, now there's none of that.
Yeah. So my issue is I was totally for the one-time free transfer when it first came out in 2019, 2020?
18 or 19, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I thought that was good. I thought that the way coaches were able to just up and ditch their programs in the middle of the night for something else. I thought when coaches get fired midway through the year and it really screws a lot of the guys on the roster, I thought it was good for that. It was good that these guys were going to know that at the end of the year, I don't have to stick with this situation when I committed to X, Y, and Z, and none of that is the case anymore at this program. Where we've royally screwed up with transfers is allowing unlimited transfers. That's a huge problem, because if we stick to one time free and we keep that gospel and we say no matter what, it's one time free, maybe there's some hardship exceptions or whatever for that second time, but that's really few and far between. 95+% of guys that try to transfer that second time, it's going to be borderline impossible for you to do it without sitting out for a year. That would cut back on a lot of these problems, because not only would you obviously not have the Dylan Gabriels of the world and the DJUs of the world that are now in their third place and have been in college football for a bajillion years, it would cut back on that, which that's unhealthy for college football in and of itself. But also, it would cut back a lot on guys transferring in the first place, because if I'm not super happy with where I'm at, or I think I can hit the free market, which is just the portal, and do something else, then I'm going to think twice about transferring in the first place, because I know that's it. Right now, if it's year one and I'm not happy, I'll just transfer. Who cares? If I don't like the next place, I'll transfer the year after or whatever.
Here's the biggest thing that nobody's talking about. All the really good coaches that are good people that that got into the profession mainly because they want to have an impact on kids' lives, and they want, you can make some money, but you love football. It's going to drive a lot of them away from the game. They're going to say, dude, I'm done with this. You've seen this in basketball with the shoe deals, and you've seen plenty of basketball coaches walk away from the game. They're just broadcasting. They're working a tenth of what they did before making the same money.
Yeah.
And you're going to see a lot of the same from college football.
Yeah. And then, so that's the portal thing. I think that's in my opinion, that's such an easy fix. There should be no one should have any problem with saying after the first time you're done transferring. Like, you get the one time and that's it. That would help a lot. The second thing, NIL-wise, the biggest issue is, and it creates all these other problems in my opinion, the people that are behind these collectives and funding these collectives or getting these guys paid, they're just random ass people, dude. There's no way of us knowing that the people handling UNLV's collective or whatever are people
working at MGM that night.
Yeah, and they're and have their T's crossed and their I's dotted, and this is done in a professional way and gone through all the proper protocol and paperwork and all that. I mean, I saw a tweet that said NIL deals gone bad are basically just busted drug deals. And that's true.
Kind of is. Yeah.
It's like when a drug deal goes bad, what are you going to do, call the cops? It's the same thing. It's like if an NIL deal doesn't go how it was supposed to, how you initially agreed to it, what are you going to do, call the NCAA?
Well, yeah.
They ain't got any power on it.
You can go back on is I signed this contract and I haven't met this contract, and that's it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the whole Rashada thing, but...
It's 100% the Rashada. The problem with the Rashada thing is this was not governed by any body above it that can be the final. There's no final authority.
It's just two parties
that either side can report to other than the court system to say this was where this person messed up, so they have to pay for it. There's no one doing that. The NCAA is so powerless, none of this matters. The way you fix this is you make the freaking schools pay the players.
Which is supposed to be coming.
It's not that hard.
Well, and you have to have signed contracts. This will be the last thing I say. I want to get into other things about college football before we roll out of here. It's coaches don't know who's on the roster from year to year, and no matter you want to say, well, they're getting paid $12 million. There's no amount of money for you to have what's going to be starting next year 105 scholarship players, and to not know who at all is on your roster, and you don't know who's going to be coming back next year. That's just not healthy. You look at the NFL, you know who's going to be a free agent, whose contract's going to be up, who got released by this team. You know all this stuff. College football, it's imagine a chart and just having a bunch of squiggly lines everywhere, because that's what your roster is, and you don't know who's staying and who's going, and it's not healthy. And all it creates, we try to create this playoff and have automatic bids. All it is just make the Alabamas and Ohio States make them a whole lot better, and everybody else is just going to get the crumbs. That's all it is. And
it makes it worse for fans across the country too, because something that's always made college football great is getting to build this relationship.
Yeah, there's none of that.
The fan base building this relationship with this player.
That's gone.
And that's been gone.
It has been, but now, I mean, like Cam Ward, if he goes to the playoff and makes the Final Four and say he makes a national title, like. What does any Miami fan know about Cam Ward other than he played at Incarnate Word in Washington State? Nothing. You know what I mean?
That 20 years from now, looking back at the Cam Ward era, won't be like the way they think and talk about Ed Reed, or Ray Lewis, or some of these great players that came through, or all these different. And it's the same with Gators. I mean, if Florida has maybe if Lagway stayed and whatever, then he would be unfalling in this category. But if they went 3 years from now with a new coach or whatever and got a great transfer quarterback that had a good year, that ain't what Tebow was here. That ain't what Tebow's an extreme example because he was Superman in college football, but that ain't what Danny Warfel was here or what Shane Matthews was. That ain't any of those guys. You don't build that relationship with players anymore.
Can we talk about so we've seen a couple of weeks. We haven't really seen a full force yet, but the new teams playing in new conferences. Dude, it's been the best thing in college football.
Yeah, I agree.
There's been
a big positive in the changes of college football.
There were so many people that work at this radio station. Like, oh, I don't like this. You're getting rid of the Pac-12 and all. I mean, you're getting rid of the tradition. Yeah, here's our new tradition. You watch that USC Michigan game. You watch how great that game was.
Our new tradition is great football games all the time.
Every week.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All day.
I agree with that. The conference realignment has been objectively a positive so far. We'll have to see with the playoff. I've been for it traditionally, but I understand the potential drawbacks to it. And we need a couple of years to be able to really see if we like it or not. But in terms of the way the regular season is, man, this is just nothing but great ball every weekend. Every weekend there's 2 or 3 games every weekend that's like must watch.
Well, and then next week you have that. I mean, there's like 6 must-watch games that you could pinpoint and say, this is a great game. And now, you're not getting the USC and Oregon State. That's, it's a cream puff that I don't really care, man. I care about seeing big games, and now I get those big games.
And a lot of people complaining about like the Pac-12 being gone or whatever. It's like, to act like you're upset about that, like you weren't in your second REM cycle when Oklahoma State and USC were playing at 1 a.m. Like, come on, you weren't watching that game.
Dude, like, when USC left, the conference was done.
Yeah.
The conference went to Apple and said, hey, we won $50 million. They said, go find it.
Right, exactly.
And they got 30.
Correct.
Because there was no value left.
Right.
Too many people live out of the rearview mirror instead of the windshield.
Yeah.
Live out of the windshield, man. Keep moving forward. Who do you like, Georgia, Bama this week?
Bama.
I like Georgia.
It's at Bama, isn't it?
Yes. I think there's too many people are overreacting that they think Georgia's not that good, and they might not be as good as we thought they were. I still think Georgia's better than Alabama.
I just think Bama has more explosion on offense, so I like them because of that. But, I mean, it's going to be tight. I mean, if Georgia wins, I won't be, like, stunned.
Right.
That's a 3 to 7 point game either way.
What is the spread for that game?
Probably, if I had to guess, 2.5.
Let me open up
something like that.
My Underground Railroad app. Let's see.
What about Hard Rock?
That's what I'm using.
Hard Rock's legal in Florida.
I might put some money on Miami tomorrow. -18 of Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is terrible.
Yeah, they're bad. They lost to Vanderbilt week 1.
Yeah,
they're real bad. Who wins, Florida or Virginia Tech right now?
Florida. Come on.
Neutral site?
Is this not on the...
What about if they went to Blacksburg? Would Florida win?
I still think Florida's a field goal or 2 or 3 point favorite.
I don't disagree.
All right. I'm doing Google because I didn't see it. Spread. This is great podcasting.
This is great podcasting.
2-point spread, Georgia -2.
Okay, so that's basically right. 2.5.
CBS Sports. I don't know where they got that number from. Yeah, I love this, man. Florida has a bye week. I'm not forced to watch a game. I can just sit back and watch whatever game. College football has been phenomenal. And it's only going to get better. I mean, we've only seen the only non-conference games that we've seen that we haven't, or the only conference games that we have not seen in years past is USC, Michigan, Florida State, Cal.
Yeah,
emotional. And then what was the other one that was big? Tennessee, Oklahoma.
Yeah,
those are the few. Now I think like Texas hasn't even played a conference game yet.
That's crazy.
And we're in week 4, 5. So, yeah, it's only going to get better up from here. All right, I'm done talking.
I'm not.
What do you want to talk about?
I'm just messing with you. I'm done.
I got to sit.
We good, baby.
Yeah, I got to sit through a hurricane and this sucks, man. I know it's Florida, dude, but it's only going to rain for like 12 hours and then we're going to be done.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to go find something on YouTube to watch. And
yes, sir.
We'll see y'all next week.